GoLoud.
Welcome back to the Weekly Roast. How's it going, guys? How the hell are you? How are your hearts? And of course, how are your heads? Guys, what's going on? How are you doing? I want to thank everybody for listening to the Weekly Roast every week. If you're new to the show, you are very, very welcome. Thank you all for getting in touch over the last week with your messages about the show. Received so many messages of support from new listeners as well, which means the world to us. And most importantly, thank you for the messages of support to our new producer, Emma. Also, I would just like to say one thing. There's been word from Mrs. Jollies, and I would like to dedicate this episode to Mrs. Jollies. Most of you will know that we haven't heard from her for a couple of months. It turns out she's had a very difficult year last year, and we won't go into it, but we will just say that we are all thinking of Mrs. Jollies, and we are really looking forward to hearing from her soon on the show. So, best of luck, Mrs. Jollies. Anything else to cover in terms of admin? I don't believe so. I just want to say thank you all for the support. If you enjoy the show, let me know at the end of it. Send me a message on Instagram at @MeganMark. And of course, the best way to support the Weekly Roast, to keep the show on the road, the wolf from the door, etc., is to share the show with a friend of yours. Now let's get into it, okay? Today is the roast of online dating. And as we all know, unfortunately, online dating is just a weird, working, normal part of life now that we all have to quietly accept without questioning it. Sort of like the over-fetishization of career criminals, that inevitably sort of undermines their amorality. Dating apps are the worst things in the world. Downloading a dating app is like playing the only lottery in the world wherein you're guaranteed to win a prize. But the problem is that the prize is either a pervert or a loon. And I say that as somebody who formerly slotted very nicely into column B. Like, whenever I was single, right, I would be on all of the apps. I'd be on the apps and I'd be off the apps. I'd be on it's sort of like Amazon Prime. You know what I mean? I'd get it, have it for 2 days, realise it doesn't serve me in any way, complete waste of time, go off it for a few months, never truly learn my lesson, and then go back on. It's one of those things that I would forget about, then think about once every 6 months, like having bad posture or the fact that you might die alone. Do you know what I mean? So, and by the way, I was on all of the apps. I was on Hinge, I was on Bumble, I was on Plenty of Fish. Wasn't on Tinder, of course. I don't speak Brazilian. But basically, I was on all. And some people think that online dating is harmless because they're like, it's just a bit of window shopping. Window shopping would suggest that there's something worth admiring. Do you know what I mean? Like, online dating is merely a gallery of sadness where the chances of forging a meaningful connection are about as slim as finding a well-priced lunch in Dublin. Like, it's each biography on dating apps, if they're anything like they used to be when I was on them, each biography is more contrived than an influencer pretending to care about human rights and then forgetting about it 3 months later when the seasons change and they realise they'll get more clout for posting outfit pics and matcha tea. And on that, by the way, the most hilarious, bear with me, but the most hilarious peak level of internet delusion recently has to be these self-appointed agents of change launching out abuse at other people for not sharing certain Instagram reels to their stories, as if that makes them somehow complicit in wider horrors, as if the Red Cross, by the way, are on the ground going, do you know what? I know he hasn't donated a cent, but Cian has worn a scarf to a DJ set and posted a few reels to his Instagram story, so we're very grateful.
Yes.
The pea-brained logic of the armchair activist never ceases to surprise and disgust me in both its self-centeredness and its stupidity. But look, let's remain less righteous for the time being and get stuck into the show. As always, I am joined by our new producer, Emma Nolan. Ella, brilliant. Emma Nolan. Good stuff. Straight out. It doesn't even matter her name. She's got blonde hair. She wears a skirt. No. Emma Nolan is a national broadcasting guru with a dog called Seamus and a questionable tattoo. But we will allow her drip feed the show with various bits of information about herself. Guys, it's the roast of online dating. Let's bask in the horrors of singleness together. I'm probably single after the last guy. On y va.
How you mark those things. So I was chatting to this lad from Tip. He moved to Dublin a few years ago, like myself. Seemed sound and all that, you know. Told me that he worked in a theatre, which I thought was pretty cool and different, especially for a fella from Tip. We ended up spending a few nights chatting about musicals and plays and basically, you know, all the different things in the arts. And he was telling me he was a costume designer for some of the biggest productions in the country. You know, like the huge ones that come over from the West End and all that. But he wasn't arrogant at all. I was really impressed with him. I asked him to send me a few photos of his work. Lots of them were like sock puppets for some show he was doing out in New York. And after about 9 pictures of these kind of weird little sock puppets with smiley faces on them, I realised that I could see all these like small little scraggly hairs at the bottom of the socks. Took me a few minutes, but eventually I realised that these were his pubes. And basically what I learned was that they weren't sock puppets at all, but cock puppets. He'd been sending me all these different pictures of his willy with different pairs of socks and little faces drawn on them, and I hadn't even realised. He blocked me once I called him out in it, and I showed the pictures to a few of the girls I know from the town that he's from, and it turns out that he wasn't working at theatre at all. He's just an unemployed butcher.
I mean, okay, the first red flag here was that he says he works on big productions.
Yeah.
And then immediately starts showing her sock puppets. I mean, I've seen Warhorse. I've seen Les Mis. Do you know what I mean? I'm fairly sure the horse is a horse and it isn't a sock or a cock, by the way. It's a fairly elaborate ruse just to put your willy and balls into an Umbro sports sock and act like you're the John Galliano of the theatre world. Do you know what I mean? I mean, maybe he does have dormant dreams of being involved in the arts, because if they were having conversations about musicals and stuff, he obviously knew like a lot about it.
Yeah, you have to back something up, especially when it's something like that, don't you?
I mean, perhaps there's a deeper, more complex origin story at play here. Maybe he genuinely did want a career in theatre, okay? Bear with me. Perhaps he headed off to London at the age of 18, fresh-faced and optimistic, with a satchel of sketches and a box full of sock puppets. He moved into a flat share in Kilburn. It's always Kilburn, certainly was back in the 80s anyway. He applies for drama school. Maybe he walks through the gates of RADA with dreams of a life behind the scenes, designing the garms and setting the stage, only to be laughed out of the audition for painting faces on Fruit of the Loom sport socks. Maybe that was his genesis as a villain, and that was the moment he turned to the dark side, so he returns home to Ireland with his head bowed in shame, riddled with self-loathing, turns on the socks in the worst way possible, and with every single thrust, he plunges his penis into the back of the socks, and his soul descends further into the depths of despair. Now he shuns the arts and spends his life as a butcher, hiding his pain between the swinging cow carcasses of the abattoir, before going home in the evening to escape himself by handling a very different type of meat indeed. Oh, or maybe he's just a pervert. I mean, the whole butcher thing is a bit of an Oliver Twist at the end. Get it? Oliver Twist.
Very good.
Please, Mark, can I have some more? No. Yeah, like bananas. God love him. I think, well, sorry, obviously God love her. The scraggly pubes. If you're going to be sending people socks full of cock, you need to do a bit of grooming.
Absolutely you do, although I might have added to the hairstyle.
Very true. Let's go.
Hello. So back in the day, I met up with a fella I was chatting with from OkCupid. We were chatting for a while and we decided to meet up. And there's a few funny flags, which I decided to ignore and just proceed for, give it an hour, give it a go and see what happens. Because we had a lot in common. It was good chats. The first thing was that he lied about his height. He said he was like 6'3". I'm 6 foot. So my preference is a tall lad, and that's fine. But I think he was about probably 5'5". Anyway, we went to the pub and we were chatting, had a pint, and he said, "Oh, I just need to ring my mum." I said, "That's fine." And he rang his mum and he said, "Yeah, things are going great. Would you mind cleaning my guitars, not guitars off my floor, because I'm going to bring her back. She's coming back." And I nearly choked on my drink because this was not discussed, and if it was, the answer would be no. But yeah, I made a swift exit probably 5 minutes after that call ended. So that date lasted under an hour.
Wow.
For me, guitars are sort of like cats, all right? Any more than 2 and you're wading into pervert territory. Genuinely, any more than 3, and that's when you know their personal hygiene is non-existent and their duvet covers smells like the seat of a tour bus after bringing Americans on a tour of the Ring of Kerry. Do you know what I mean? And I say that as somebody who was in the Dublin School of Guitar until I was 14. I'm really imagining this guy, like, speaking into his Slipknot hoodie. He's got like a walkie-talkie and it's like, Mom, fetch my shagging jammies. We've got a live one for the Sex Piss. Do you know what I mean? His mum's like a sort of Kathy Bates and Misery style character, like, hide the dry nights. Switch out my, Mum, hide the dry nights. Switch out my SpongeBob lampshade for a regular one from Zara Home and put a world map over my 6-foot poster of Yap Stam. I think I'm going to be doing a bit of rattling tonight. Like, he's clearly any man that's planning the sex with his mum. Mum, put the fender strat back in the wardrobe. Like, I mean, take the figurines I made out of cheese strings down from the windowsills. I don't want her to think that I'm a freak, you know? But actually, please make sure to leave a finger ball on the bedside locker because I'm not going to need to rinse off some of the chilly heatwave Dorito dust from my fingertips before I sink my digits into any other orifice. Like, you know, you just know from those guitar guys that there is a permanent layer of Dorito dust under the stumpy little fingers, you know. It's just those little greasy mitts with the orange. It's always Tangy Ches or it's always Chili Heat Wave, you know. Oh, and Mom, leave the tissues shoved down behind the headboard where they are. That's from the time I had a really bad cold, Mom. They shouldn't be frozen, Barry. Do you know what I mean? Back to his sordid little Dorito dungeon. And Mom, don't, and make sure to spray some Febreze on my wanking chair. I mean, gaming chair. Gaming chair. Let's be honest, guys. Gaming chairs, come on. You're 37 and you've a gaming chair. Grant, you are addicted to sock puppets. Do you know what I mean? I'm imagining the smell of his room. And you know that smell? The smell is like damp hemp. Sort of like a rainforest, but the only association with Amazon is the fleshlight that he ordered 6 weeks ago.
Amen.
From Amazon. Emma Nolan, let me ask you a question. Let me put you on the spot. What would be something that you would see in a guy's room that would make you go, good luck? Like that bad that if you...
More than one empty can of Monster.
Yeah, cans of Monster. Cans of Monster are very much, they're like the emblems of pervert. If you've drank a can of Monster before 8 a.m, you need psychiatric care.
I would wholeheartedly agree. But if there was 5 empty bottles of Volvic, God, you healthy king.
Do you know what also winds me up now that we're on the subject of drinks? Not alcoholic beverages, relax. We read the book. Bars in Dublin serving, when you order a Coke Zero, right? Giving you the fucking tiny mixer-sized bottle of Coke for €6.
Joke.
People wonder why we're not vintners or whatever whinging Diageo going, people aren't going out. Make it accessible. Make it a half decent experience for people to go out. £6 for a tiny thing of Coke Zero. It's an absolute scam.
It's actually ridiculous that we're not more furious about this on the daily. It drives me insane.
And the onus is always, like with everything, like with fucking, by the way, climate change, it's all put on the individual. No responsibility taken by these businesses. They're absolutely gouging us left and right. Nevertheless, let's go.
So once I dated is a big word for it. I went on a date with a guy, and he is known amongst my friendship circle as the crying, screaming, spitting man. There was only one date. So we went out for lunch, and then afterwards gin and tonic on the beach, and we're walking home to my house, and he kind of stopped and pushed me against the wall to have a kiss, and I thought, great, love a bit of that. But his mouth was so full of saliva that it felt like I was taking a shot every time he tried to kiss me. So I just kept like dodging it, and I would say things like, oh my gosh, I love it when you kiss my neck, just to redirect the horror of his mouth. Anyway, then we get back to mine. Don't ask me why I felt the need to still shag the man, but I did. Anyway, we get back to mine, we have sex, and he makes this blood-curdling scream, like, I thought something had broken. I wondered if my vagina had teeth. He screamed like a fucking banshee, and it was just him having an orgasm. Anyway, then he started sobbing, started crying. I was like, oh my God, what's the matter? And he said, I just don't feel how I thought I would feel. And then he said that he didn't think he was going to stay over. I was like, fucking, I've already called you a taxi. No, you're not staying over.
Dear Lord.
Good God. Where do you want to start with that one?
I think I need to start with the amount of spit in his mouth.
The vaginal teeth is a shocker for me, but yeah, we can.
Yeah, well,
spit,
that's true too.
it's very visceral to say that kissing him would be like doing a shot. That is just get away
That's
from
a
me.
lot.
By the way, and I've said this before in the podcast, and I've got no problem saying it again, Emma. People kissing aggressively, just stop.
Calm the fuck down.
Anytime that I've ever been kissed aggressively, and by the way, the moment or millisecond that a moan comes out of their mouth, good luck, I'm gone. I'm not that good. I'm not that good. I know that I'm not. I know that I'm not that good. You're annoying me now with your insincerity because I know that this whole thing is a facade. Then at least be real, be authentic, be bloody silent. Kissing, like the whole throwing someone up against a wall. There's gravel on that wall. What are you doing? Do you know what I mean? We're in Spain. The smell of plumbing on pretty much every street, by the way, is sickening. We need to get back to the gaff. Throw me up against a wall in broad daylight and kissing me, shoving his tongue down the throat. No, not for me. Well, obviously not for me, but not for me. Now, let's move on. Screaming. I don't want to police orgasms. I've always said that about this podcast. I don't want to police orgasms, okay? However, somebody needs to be called. Screaming during the orgasm seems excessive.
It does, but...
Followed by tears, by the way.
She should take it as a massive compliment.
Yeah. I mean, she should take the screaming for sure. The sobbing, saying that he didn't think it was was it his first time? I don't know. I think it's all a bit, the vaginal teeth, the banshee, it's all a lot.
I think it's too much to come back from on a first date, but I think if you were 3 years in and that was your husband or whatever and you were like, Jesus, I'm good.
But also, like, I'd be gone. From the kissing at the beginning, I'd be good luck. It's all just off. Let's go and get the Cheetos. Show me some of your guitars and we'll play with some socks. On y va.
Hey, Mark. So my crazy online dating story is I'm on Tinder, swiping left, swiping right, and I come across this profile. This guy, cute. We had a lot in common, hobbies-wise, and he lived near enough. There wasn't going to be a major distance. So I swiped right and we matched straight away and he messaged me. So we chatted for a few days and he asked if we could do a phone call. And we got on great on the phone call. I was like, God, this guy seems so nice. He wasn't Irish. He was a very interesting man to talk to. So we arranged to meet for a coffee. And he did inform me on the phone call that he used to be a priest. So this was a bit of a shock. I found it a bit weird at first, but I thought, look, he's been very honest. He used to be. He's now living here in Ireland. And I thought, look, we all have a past. And he was very honest about it, so no bother. And I met him for coffee and we got on like a house on fire. And he asked to meet me again. Now, in that conversation, he did say he'd had moments of kind of wondering had he done the right thing in leaving the priesthood. But he had been in a number of relationships here in Ireland since he moved here and had asked to meet me for a coffee. So I went to meet for a second date. So we went ahead and met for dinner and got on so well. We had so much to talk about, got on so well. But in the last maybe 15 minutes, he hit me with, well, he didn't feel like he hit me with it, but he did. He told me that he wasn't, while he had left the priesthood, he wasn't officially left. He hadn't signed the papers, is how he put it. He hadn't been laicized. So he had left his parish where he was working, but it wasn't official. And even informed me in that conversation that while we were having a couple of dates and he was on a dating site, that he was having conversations with his church back home to see would he go back to it. But didn't see anything wrong with dating me. Yeah, I've seen a lot of red flags. I kind of feel I've seen them all, but this was an all new low. This was something I did not see coming, that I was sitting across the table on a second date with a priest.
I mean, I wonder what sort of hobbies would, what gave it away that he was a priest? Do you know what I mean? So, Dermot, what sort of hobbies are you into? Yourself, normal ones really for a guy my age. Yeah? Like what? Saying the Hail Mary? Do you know what I mean? Doing the Stations of the Cross. Sorry, anything else? That seems Quite specific. No, just standard. You know yourself, just standard sort of hobbies. Like what? What do you watch TV? Yeah, I watch TV. Yeah. What do you watch yesterday? Do you know The Angelus? Yeah, I know The Angelus. Yeah. What season is your favourite? Probably the one with the guy in the umbrella who stopped and looked up. Do you know what I mean? Like, what did you have for lunch in the coffee shop? Bread and wine. Do you know what I mean? The guy is clearly a complete priest. He'd essentially ditched work for the day, shoved the collar in the back pocket, swapped the black leather bowling boots for a pair of Nike Air Max, and was loitering around online dating apps wanting to taste some forbidden fruit. But Adam don't deserve that Eve sleeve. Am I correct?
Yes.
He wants to live like a layman just for the afternoon. For the love of God, you're a man of God. I just cannot believe... I can't fathom how it would feel to be sitting across from a priest, not knowing that he's a priest, only, like, what was the moment when you knew that he hadn't actually fully left the church? Forgive me, Aoife, for I have sinned. Sorry? Why are you speaking like that? Why, please stand. We don't have to stand. We're in a butler's cafe, relax. That is bananas. That is, as you might say, Emma Nolan, hold on to your collar and your crucifixes, derangement levels. Guys, I hope you're enjoying this episode of The Weekly Roast, the tales of Tinder and online dating. If you're enjoying the show, do us a favour and send it to a friend of yours. Let me know if you have any suggestions on what you'd like roasted on Instagram at Megan Mark. And most importantly, please share it with a friend. Now, look, as we're approaching the second segment, okay, Emma Nolan, I need you to know, this is just like, it's fairly foul, okay? I know we've had the Willy Willy Bum Bum section in the past. This is sort of just like a bum bum loon section. It's all just mental, okay? So
I spent a huge part of my 20s on online dating apps, and I understand the struggle.
Do you?
Massively.
Would you be reluctant to ever go back on dating apps?
Oh, it makes me so sad. I was watching Sex in the City over the weekend with my boyfriend, and all the girls were talking about their single lives, and this was even before online dating apps, and I was like, oh Jesus, like, obviously break up with me if you want ever, but fuck me, I don't want to be single again. So much work on the dating apps, I mean.
We get it, Emma. You have a boyfriend.
Oh,
Let's go.
Shut up, Mark.
Hi, Mark. I matched this guy on Tinder. He was really good looking. His profile pictures looked like it was straight out of a Hello magazine. Got messaging anyway, and then exchanged numbers. Basically, his background was he was born in Ireland, lived about 15 minutes from me. Then his parents emigrated to America. He joined the US Marines. He had one kid, but the kid's mother died in childbirth, and the kid was in boarding school. And he was working as a US Marine in Afghanistan. So we were texting anyway, and each morning he used to send me this, like, a link for a love song or something, and then we'd be messaging away. So then eventually, after maybe a couple of weeks, I hadn't heard from him for about a day, and then he texts to say, honey, there has been an attack, and he got shot in the stomach, and some of his colleagues were dead, and his Visa card or bank card was on his person, and he lost it, and he needed me to help him to get home. And would I send him 2,000 euros by Bitcoin so he could fly back? And it was just ridiculous. I knew straight away it was a scam.
First things first, he looked like something out of Hello magazine. He resembled Katie Price. Do you know what I mean? Or like the sixth cousin of the royal family's fucking gardener or something. Do you know what I mean? What sort of long-lasting damage to the frontal lobe would one have to experience before thumbing through an issue of Hello magazine? There isn't a spot of wallpaper in my local dental surgery bland enough that would justify me picking up one of those celeb-filled tat rags. I'd rather read a copy of the National Geographic from 1987 that has optimistic articles about fucking Concorde. Nevertheless, let's move on to this complete bucket of insanity. Emma Nolan, I'm going to say this clearly. I've had very limited dealings with Al Qaeda over the years, okay?
Good. I'm glad to hear.
But I can't. No. No, I'd be turban in my grave if I. No. But I can't imagine Al Qaeda would, if they want to come after you, right, and they've shot you in the stomach, They're hardly going to go for the debit card there. Surely they're more ruthless than that. The literal Taliban, do you know what I mean? Taliban, like with guerrilla warfare. They're not going to be pilfering a fucking Visa debit from an Irish-American soldier. Yo, there's been boss, hey Sarge, yeah? Yeah, what is it? Sorry to disturb you, boss. There's been an ambush by the Afghani rebels. Some of them are wielding AK-47s. Okay, hold on. Right, I'll be right there. They're also asking for our sort codes, boss, and our mother's maiden names. Do you know what I mean? This is completely what sort of inefficient group of sort of Afghani bandits are shooting people in the stomach and then trying to get their bit codes. Like, this is just a wildly unorthodox and, dare I say, convoluted attack by any form of Middle Eastern militia, okay? Shoot their tummies and steal their money. Like, I don't know. This is the thing about the Taliban. They just, guys, who's doing your PR? Do you know what I mean? They need to get one of the Dublin agencies. Hey guys, how's it going? Clouda here. So I'm actually working with really exciting clients at the moment. They're a bit edgy, a little bit sort of on the, like, Mark, you're on the edge, right? The Taliban are sort of just a little, when you say they're on edge, what do you mean? Well, they behead the eyes of the... This is complete. Nevertheless, no, I've got a bit more. It wouldn't be like the US Army to neglect their soldiers in a time of need. Political comedy, there you go. About as reckless and political as Damien fucking Hirst. That spoof bag, by the way. Anyway, well done for spotting this scammer. I just don't... Why did he have to go from we grew up together, then my parents emigrated, then I'm a US Marine, then I've been shot in the stomach, then they robbed my debit card. Can you send me the money, but only via Revolut or via Bitcoin? Good God. Yeah, how's it going? So we're working on a campaign a gifting campaign with the Taliban. So what we'll do is we're just doing a mail out now with fingers of loved ones. If you could just give me your air code, Mark, because I know you moved from Dunleary recently. Let's go.
Hi Mark, absolutely love the pods and congratulations with it. But I'll try and keep this story a little bit brief. It is a little bit X-rated, so I will try keep it as PG as I can. But I basically met this guy via online dating. I had just come out of a long-term relationship, so I wasn't looking for anything serious. He wasn't looking for anything serious, so yeah, we kind of hit it off. He was a nice guy, a little bit strange, but the chat was fine. And things sort of escalated and we were going to meet up. At one point, he's an aesthetics doctor, so at one point he asked me if I would come into his clinic. He would give me free Botox in exchange for a BJ. So I politely declined that offer, but I did agree to meet him. I don't know why. I completely regret it now looking back, but look, needs must, and met up with him. Again, don't judge me. I was living with my parents at the time, and so we met up in his car because he came from further away to meet. So anyway, we decided to do the deed, and it's going fine-ish. And he looks down at me at one point, looks me dead in the eye, and I look at him, and he said to me, tell me you like F-U-C-K-ing me, because I am a sexy doctor. I said, sorry, and he said, you heard me, tell me you like F-U-C-K-ing me because I am a sexy doctor. So I didn't know where to look. I just kind of got a bit nervous, so I just blurted it out. And he said to me, oh, good girl, good girl. And yeah, for me then, I was like, look, no, I can't do this anymore. So needless to say, we stopped doing the deed. And it was a bit awkward after that, but he dropped me home. So it was fine, and I was like, geez, that was the worst experience of my life. I'm never meeting that guy again. And then the next day I got a message from him, and he said, hey, how are you? Just letting you know that you left 20 cents in my car yesterday evening if you want me to keep it for you. and I didn't even know what to say, so I just replied, thanks, you can keep it, and then I blocked him. So yeah, that was my story of the funny aesthetics doctor. But yeah.
Right. What are your thoughts, Emma Nolan?
Botox is expensive, but nothing is worth that. Never do that. Part 2 of things I have to say. I was a loser when I was 17 or 18, and my friend was in college in Cork, and I was doing my leaving cert, and I went to visit her in Cork one time, and I really fancied her housemate so hard I just could not stop thinking about him. I'd say I checked his Facebook page 100 times a day. I was a freak, and I'd kissed him, and he gave me some socks the next day because I didn't have any socks.
Right there. Where had the socks been?
The socks had just been on my feet.
Okay.
Yeah, and my only way to see this man again was the fact I owned his socks.
And did you?
Hi, let's call him Thomas. Hi, Thomas. I have your socks if you want to get them at some point. We were meeting to get my socks. I self-cleaned my car to the point that you honestly could have eaten your dinner off it.
Oh, love it.
It was stinking a polish
Love
and
it.
every air freshener under the sun. And I gave Thomas his socks back and it led to nothing. And I'd no more 20. If I had 20 cents,
Did it not?
I would not at all.
So he just took, well, sorry, that's bananas by him. So he met you. He was like, yeah, cheers to the socks. Yeah, lovely.
We had a little kiss, but there was no more to it. I think I probably had freaked Thomas out with my insistence on returning the socks to their rightful owner.
Yeah.
But if there was anything left, if he'd left a dirty chewing gum, I would have been like, hi, Thomas, just letting you know there's a chewing gum here belonging to you.
Oh my God. Do you remember when you say about the Facebook thing? Do you remember when people were on Snapchat? And by the way, I say this when we were in our early 20s. Anybody over the age of 30, by the way, that's on Snapchat.
It's upsetting.
Their hard drive should be handed into a local Garda station because there's adults using Snapchat. I've always said this. Men over the age of 30 using Snapchat are wearing high tops. Just not for me. We're going to Paramore concerts, nevertheless. But you remember there was a period when Snapchat, they turned on a feature where overnight who you were chatting to the most
Carnage
was appearing, and it was your top 3, and all of a sudden I knew 6 people that broke up overnight because it was who the fuck is on you? Do you know what I mean?
Fact. It was a lethal way of marketing the app. It was crazy. It knew it was going to cause work, gossip in every school, every college, every workplace. It was phenomenal. And do you remember the panic of, oh my God, quick, my friend, Emily, keep Snapchatting me. We have to get up higher in each other's.
No, I was an honest guy. I've got no idea what you're talking about,
but it was
Emma
even
Nolan.
among friendships, why are you talking to her so much? It just was causing unease.
That was with Bebo when you had your top 16.
Yeah. And then it moved to 32, didn't it?
Yeah, I was always 33 or 17, so.
I used to get the other half and then I'd be ditched out, or else just the panic of, my friend in school's after shifting that guy. So by Friday, they'll probably be each other's other half. What am I going to do for another half now? I can't be a loser without another half. Starting the chats, ringing the house phone. Megan, do you think you could be my other half this week? She's going to change by Friday. It's very stressful.
We people our age like to think that we grew up in this era of complete ease and tranquility, but we all had it's all relative. Your biggest problem is your biggest problem. Anyway, let's get into the sexy doctor. The most amazing thing about this first, or the most Irish thing about this first, is that they've been having sex for a few minutes before they make eye contact. That is just so unbelievably Irish. I mean, whether we like to admit it or not, we are as a species, as a race, we are fundamentally repressed when it comes to our self-expression and sex. I mean, guys will be sending girls messages from nightclubs going, I can't wait to throw you around the room, you little minx, before them eventually having sort of placid missionary and just whispering in their ear, is it in yet? What do you mean? How do you not know by the scent? How, I remember Mrs. Jolly's, one of her famous contributions to this show was whenever she was with the guy one time and he thought it was in and he was actually penetrating the pillow beneath her.
Beautiful.
Which is, now, okay, with this doctor, offering a blowjob in exchange for facials, be it treatments, do you know what I mean?
Oh.
But offering a blowjob in exchange for cosmetic or aesthetic treatments is a red flag as large as Stalin's duvet. That's when you need to get rid of the guy. And then in the sort of dirty talk thing, look, I've chatted about this before in the podcast. I don't believe that Irish people are capable of filthy talk. I don't need to do the recreation that I always do, but I think Irish people's filthy chat is just oh, fuck, that's it. That's the line. The dictionary of Irish sex talk. Oh, fuck. That's genuinely it. Gender, it's the one thing that transcends all gender in Irish culture. Oh, fuck.
How do you know?
Oh, fuck, or don't stop.
Cringing.
The fucking don't stop. I'm not.
Oh.
I'm not planning on stopping. Stop telling me, but my foot. Do it harder. Harder. Do you think that this is me at 60%? Do you think this is me just going, yeah, just slop over here and get... Do you know what I mean? This is it. This is all I have. It's not like I can go, all right, time to turn on the jets, Megan. Time to release that extra 6 inches. This is all I have. Break up with the doctor, block him, move on. 20 cents. Let's go.
So I matched with a guy on Tinder, and his opening message to me was, no shit or piss kinks and nothing near my arse. Yeah.
Like, good stuff.
Brilliant.
Good stuff. They sound like the rules made by the driver of the Venga bus on the last day of their trip to Ibiza with the band, because they've finally worn down his patience. Do you know what I mean? What I don't understand is, why is this guy opening up with that as if this is like a really common thing? I don't want to speak on behalf of the women of Ireland, but like, I don't want to... It's as if this is a super common thing. Do you know, as if it's a go-to for Irish females on their dating app bios, looking for a guy who's at least 6 foot, earning more than 100k, and of course who's very interested in toilet kinks and putting stuff up his arse. Like, he's already ruling out something that's very unlikely to ever be ruled in.
Absolutely.
I think that's a reasonable thing to say. No shit or piss kinks and nothing near my arse. Nobody was nobody's pushing anything near your arse, Keith. Your arse is fine. I remember one time, by the way, years ago, let me be very clear, dear listener, years ago in London, somebody tried to put something up my arse.
Really?
To say I could have won an Olympic gold for the high jump, okay, or at the very least a Commonwealth, I sprung up from the fucking bed. I wasn't aware that I could even move that fast, like a cartoon character who sits on a stick of dynamite, do you know what I mean, and then gets blown up in his arse. There's just a hole in his trousers with a cross on his arse. Anyway, I just do not think that you don't need to specify that. You don't need to put that in the bio. No shit or piss kinks and nothing near Mars. Just assume that most women are not going to be into that.
Absolutely.
I know that I'm probably like this old bloody stick in the mud who's gotten much more conservative as he's gotten older, but still, it's not that common. But again, rules are rules. So
my friend who's gay and is on Grindr would show me that a lot of the time in that situation, that'd be much more like, not that, they'd be much more stating their case of, I'm not a bottom, I'm a top.
Would you get a lot of gay guys saying nothing near my arse?
I guess so. It would be much more out there because I guess that's more of a thing. But as I said, I don't think the average 52-year-old lady from Cavan is going, I'm coming to get you.
My friends, what we're witnessing here is Emma realizing that she bit off more than she could chew.
Thank you.
And she got panicked. And she was like, how do I get myself out of this corner in the most safest way possible without...
I'm gonna regret.
Look, anybody can put anything in their arse. That's the bottom line.
I've been texting this guy on Hinge for 3 weeks. Casually, he dropped into conversation one random morning that he was off work because his hemorrhoids were so bad.
Good stuff. Look, I'm a believer, as we all know, in radical honesty, and only the truth can free any of us from suffering. But I'd probably draw the line at telling a first date the reasons that you can't go, or the reason that you're on annual leave, is because of hemorrhoids. You know, there isn't a spiritual entity in the clouds above us or the wider ether that would send a man to hell for lying in that context. Do you know, it's a real Sophie's choice, isn't it? Do I tell the date that I'm sick, that I've got the flu, or do I tell her that I've got a weeping wound on my hole? Do you know what I mean? Go for the flu, bro. Go for anything. I've got a funeral. My sister needs to deliver a child out of a woman at a bus stop tomorrow at noon, and that's why. Don't go for the I've got a hemorrhoid.
No. Anything but. Honestly, anything but.
If you'll allow the pun.
Yes, I didn't mean to.
Yeah, good luck. What is a hemorrhoid, actually? Somebody used to just tell me that you get them from sitting on radiators. No, that's piles.
Let me see. What's the definition?
Piles is something, I think piles is itchy. And then I think hemorrhoids are just like, yeah.
This is not nice for whoever, like anyone who has to get them. But again, You wouldn't be admitting it.
Do the image search.
Will I?
Yeah. Oh God, that's absolutely.
Oh, no.
Just save a few of those and send them to me for later. Let's go.
Hey Mark, so I matched with this guy on Bumble and we were chatting for a couple of days. Seemed fine, and he asked if I would like to go to get food the following day, so I said, yeah, sounds good. So then later that evening, he said he was just home from work and he'd a really busy night ahead, so I asked what were his plans, and he just sent back a video where he was playing with himself, sounded like he was enjoying it, and then also a video of him licking his fingers and playing with some of his juice box. So I definitely lost my appetite and he was immediately blocked. So I gave Bumble a break for a week or two after that.
Yeah, that's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. And I've heard some harrowing shit.
Can I ask something?
Well, I'm going to ask the same question.
What's it?
What's a juice box?
I don't know.
Can somebody out there tell me what a juice box is? Or do I even want to know? Do I even need to know? Or am I better off living in that warm, cozy, comfortable land of sweet naivete? Because good Lord,
Naivete.
I don't want to live in a world where juice box is a popular phrase.
No. I don't either.
Licking his... That's fucking mad. That whole thing is... I'm really sorry that you had to experience that. Now, you didn't get a good look at his face, did you? No, you didn't, of course. No, you'd never get a good look. People these days, they all look similar. They could look like, anybody. I could look like me for even, if you were if the right angle. The guy is there that was nevertheless. That's absolutely derangement levels of disgraceful. That is, my friends, disgusting and deplorable, disgraceful, deranged, despicable. I'm sorry. I'm just sorry that is the state of play out there for the people of Ireland. What was he getting out of that? The licking of the moaning, I can get with in terms of not being done by self, but I can understand intellectually, I can understand why somebody might moan during an act of self-pleasure.
Like, you can understand the correlation between the two.
Yes.
But when you start licking it,
that's just fucking...
Also, since when do dating apps allow you to send media? I thought you couldn't send any.
Yeah, when I was trying to send some videos yesterday, I just... Guys, it is the roast of all of your Tinder tales and online dating. I hope you've enjoyed the show. As lots of you will know, I do lots of matchmaking myself and have been doing some over the last couple of years. I take breaks from it every now and then. But if you are stuck out there and looking, let me know. Particularly men, because I have a lot of eligible people looking to go on dates. So get in touch, and whenever I pick it up again, if I'm doing more events like I did a few weeks ago, I will keep you in mind. Most importantly, if you're enjoying the show, send us a message. Let me know what you think of it. Send in suggestions for what you'd like roasted. And again, just thank you so much for the really warm welcome for Emma. There are a lot of big things happening this year, which I've been saying for months, but believe me, my hands have been bloody tied, okay? But...
Oh, the meetings now we have to attend in the next few weeks about all this.
Well, we have one after this.
And then we have an out of office one, Mark. That's when you know it's serious.
Do we actually have an out of office?
Yeah.
Oh, is that the one with the whole... Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, stuff's happening. That's all I'll say. And there's also... Anyway, I always do this. They say that actually you shouldn't talk about things that are in situ, because whenever you tell people about them, the dopamine is released in your brain in terms of you finishing the task, and thus you're less likely to. So... sorry about all that. All I'll say is it's an exciting time, and none of it would be happening if it wasn't for your support. So to everybody that uses this podcast as a nice little break, or on the way into work, or going out for a walk in the evening, or just a bit of respite from the loons that you cohabit with, we are truly very grateful. So thank you for your support. Instagram at @MegaMark. Now, the final furlong. Let's get into it. The bottom of the 9th. Wrigley Field. Let's go.
So years ago, I went on a Plenty of Fish date that I was kind of reluctant to go on, but went on anyway. Long story short, was running for the last bus and jumped in the taxi, which he insisted on going in with me. And I realised then I'd left my phone in the taxi when I got out. So he said he'd try and make contact with the taxi driver. Don't know how he did, but he managed somehow, and got my phone back the next day. So I knew then that I had to go and meet him again. Was kind of reluctant to, but he had been a really decent guy. So I said, right, we'll meet again. Brought him chocolates, met at this random hotel at the edge of the motorway, because it was halfway between the two of us. And I was like, oh, can I get you coffee? But he insisted on lunch, which then he was like, let's go for a walk. Had randomly looked up that there was like a walkway around the hotel. And as we were walking, I was kind of trying to plant the seed that we were better as friends and we really shouldn't like meet up again. And he kept saying, oh, come on, come on. I know I'd be good for you. I know you've been hurt. I know you've had your heart broken, which I hadn't, and definitely hadn't given him any indication of this. But he kept saying, I'd be really good for you. I think we'd be really good together, was quite pushy. So finally, the walk ended, and as I was getting into my car, he shouted my name at the top of his voice and said, I'd be good for you. Give me a chance. So I jumped into the car and sped away and thought to myself, that was insane. We'll never, ever see this guy again. So when I got home, sent him a message, said, thank you so much, like really appreciate it, but, better as friends. Leave it at that. He didn't reply, so I thought, phew, he got the hint. That's the end of that. The next day I got an absolute essay basically saying his dad had been in hospital the day before, so he hadn't replied to me, but he really thought we'd be good together. He really thought we had something special. And even though I'd had my heart broken before, I should just feel the fear and do it anyway. So needless to say, then I blocked him and never spoke to him again. But feel the fear and do it anyway it became a favourite line for my coworker the next day.
What an absolute, just unforgivable freak. Do you know what annoys me about this one, right? Whatever about being a weirdo, okay, which clearly he is, there's a deeper level of misogyny there at play, wherein like he thinks that he knows what's best for her more than she knows. So like from the beginning of this, when she's literally saying to him, I think we're better off as friends. Like she's being direct in the most polite way possible. And he is just immediately dismissing anything that she's saying because it's that sort of, I know what's best. And that is like, they're dangerous people. People like that who don't they think that your protests or your basically they don't, none of your feelings are valid to them because they believe that they're all sane. I'm sure like many listeners have been in relationships with somebody like that, wherein that any of your feelings are just like, oh yeah, they're just something that they need to tolerate rather than take as being legitimate. Do you know what I mean? They're like, oh yeah, okay, I know you feel like that now, but eventually you'll come around to this way of thinking, which of course is right. And those sort of people are complete and utter loons. And now if you'll allow me, because this is less of a comedy thing, I will slip into the indulgent and the self-righteous here. So I know it probably drives some people demented because who the hell do I think I am? But I believe that this modern world of wellness is to blame in some of this, right? I think...
consider me hooked. Go on.
Okay. Well, I spoke about it briefly on Instagram yesterday and I haven't thought this through and I should probably think these things through before I say them because... anyway, these sort of like middle-aged white male attempts at appearing to be profound and making very base level psychological observations. You've just rinsed every article you've ever written, Mark. Nevertheless, I think that this modern world of wellness, right, is focusing and it's all about the individual. It's all about the individual, but to the complete nth degree. And this whole focusing and obsession on self, it's not fucking healthy. And I am, as you know, like a massive advocate of opening up and talking about your feelings, but in a way that's inclusive in terms of bringing other people in, not just doing you for you, that's better for you. And every single choice needs to be about you and what you get from this situation, you get from this relationship, you get from this. I feel like this weird, like the self as a construct is very dangerous in terms of focusing too much on it. And this world of wellness, it's now like anybody who disagrees with you or criticizes you is immediately branded a fucking narcissist or, oh, you're toxic. No, people are allowed to disagree with you. Like people are allowed not like my comedy. That doesn't mean they're a hater. They just don't think I'm funny. And that's fine. If you're setting up an anonymous Instagram account to abuse me, then you've got a problem. But if someone just doesn't like me, they're not a hater, fine. They just don't like me. People are allowed not like other things. And like if people disagree with you, it doesn't mean they're a narcissist. If they don't want to adhere to whatever your ideas or beliefs are, that doesn't mean they're ultimately toxic. I think the pendulum, and I'll finish in a second, I feel like the pendulum of sort of talking about ourselves has swung way too far in the opposite direction. And now people aren't looking within to actually make changes. They're just looking within to then create a world that caters to every single want and need of their own. Basically, it's bullshit masquerading as self-care. And if you look at Instagram, by the way, every single fucking meme, excuse my language, every meme, every reel, every wellness page by some other unqualified mindfulness expert basically tells you just do whatever you want, whenever we want, and forget the impact that your behaviour has on other people. That's actually it. Post-COVID, and I see it in public everywhere, there's no longer a sense of awareness of the impact that your actions or behaviours may have on the people around you. And that's not just in public, it's also in private, wherein all these memes and these self-help pages are all just about just do whatever you want. I saw one on the weekend, genuinely, and it was like, I used to be so harsh on myself for showing up late for things, but then I realised that it's my body's way of telling me to slow down and just arrive whenever I feel comfortable arriving. No, actually, Dermot. We booked the table for 7. Do you know what I mean? So do you want to have a conversation with the waiter and tell him that your fucking self needed a little bit more time to get through the door? Like, I just don't. I think it's dangerous. I think it's really dangerous, and I think you can journal yourself into fucking problems, if truth be told.
I couldn't agree with you more.
And I bloody cripple with introspection, and it's too much. And the best answer for me is to just focus on other people, if possible. Because otherwise, I do just slip into fancy land and think, anyway.
It's obviously up to each individual person, but I know what you mean. I feel like there's no consideration for others anymore, because it's like, if it doesn't suit me, then fuck y'all. And I'm like, well, actually, we kind of need to do a bit of give and take.
I just have to speak my truth. You don't actually. We don't always have to speak our truth. Sometimes we just close the mouth and open the ears and just don't. It's not, everything doesn't need to be convenient to us every single day at all times. And that, my friends, is what we'll be talking about in the live shows. It's basically going to be a lecture. No, it won't be. Let's get back to comedy. All the best.
So I reckon this dating story might take the first place in terms of the worst match on Tinder yet. So I came across this profile, really ridiculously good looking. His name was Henry, age 39, and relatively normal bio. It said, looking for a relationship with a nice, kind woman. I love the outdoors, cozy nights in, good cook as well. Have my own house and dog, and I'd love to be pegged by the right woman. Just something I'd like to try. So, obviously thrown for a loop. I knew it was a catfish, so I sent the pictures into my friend group chat, and they Google reverse imaged the pictures and found that he was using a guy called Noah Mills, who's one of Vogue top 10 models in the world pictures. So I matched with him and he messaged me, "Hi, Sarah." So I responded back a hi. And he said, like to cook. How about you? I said, yeah, but I'm better with a peg than I am with a pan. And so the game was afoot. And I asked him about, what size peg did he want to try? And was he an amateur? And he said, yeah, he'd never tried pegging before. And I said, oh, do they not have pegs in Canada? And he was like, oh, I don't get the Canada reference. At which point I said, oh, are we pretending that you were not Noah Mills? Your secret's safe with me, Henry. He said, oh, you got me. And so it continued on. And he then asked me, did I want to try, or had I ever tried a swingers club? To which I responded that, obviously he was a catfish and therefore could be assumed to be an absolute munter. And at least I could abide by him being a catfish if the crack was good in the chat, but his chat was absolutely the worst chat I've ever seen since Jesus died on the cross. And so that was that. Peace out, Cub Scout Henry. And yeah, it's bleak out there to say the least.
Cozy nights in your arse by the sounds of things.
Yeah.
Pegging is what exactly?
I'll get the Google definition. Pegging is a sexual practice with a strap-on dildo, usually anal penetration. It's usually defined as a practice in which a woman penetrates the anus of a man.
Like the outdoors, cozy nights in, pegging. One of them has to go. One of them, either make the bio just about the pegging, don't be including the I feel like it's something that you could say to, of course, each to their own. And I'm sure that there are lots of different people who want to be pegged or do the pegging and all the rest. But is it something that needs to be said in the dating bio? Is it that much of it? And particularly when he hasn't done it before. I mean, I'm just surprised that he says he's looking for a long-term relationship, but also very much here for the pegging. So, like, which is it, brother? Like, you know what I mean? Do you want to be pegged? If that's the case, there surely are apps that are more sort of peg-specific than Hinge. Do you know what I mean? Really liked Scrubs. Season 5, whenever Dr. Cox got upset about his brother-in-law dying, that really broke my heart. Wouldn't mind bending down on all fours in the car park of Aldi and for somebody to come up with a strap on. Willing to use a empty roll of kitchen roll or perhaps a miniature children's golf club. Do you know what I mean? Like, which do you want? Choose your bed, then bloody lie in it. Let's go.
So I met the guy on Tinder. He was texting back and forth. He was super like into what I was doing. I was in college at the time. And I was an older student. I was in college. He seemed really nice. Arranged to meet him in a bar where my friend worked, so it would be safe. We had been messaging for about 2 weeks. We arranged to meet. And then he had sent some pictures of his apartment before that, which I thought was a bit weird. But anyway, arranged to meet him, and then about an hour before I went to meet him, he sends a picture of his erect dick saying, "I hope you don't mind big boys." So, needless to say, I did not go and meet him. He was a complete stranger sending me pictures of his genitals. So that was the last time I ever agreed to go on an online date.
Yeah.
Big boy. He sounds like a large child. I mean, what was he thinking? It's obviously, by the way, just so everybody knows, like 90% of the messages yesterday were from people receiving penises.
Really?
I've never. It was a cacophony of penises in the DMs. Like,
Why do men
I
love-
could hear the sounds of them whapping against thighs. It was just like a symphony of dick. Like, it was. Yeah, it's clearly a pandemic or epidemic.
Yeah.
Pandemic. I mean, I've told this in the podcast before, but like, I'll tell you if in case you haven't heard it. Did I ever tell you about the time? This is a friend of mine was asked years ago. A friend of mine was chatting to this girl.
Yeah.
And they were like getting into hot and steamy conversations, and she asked him to send her a dick pic.
All right.
So he rings me and he was like, "Mark, as if I'm like the fucking in-house, do you know what I mean? Kodak cock merchant." And he was like, "I need to send this dick picture." And I was like, "Oh, fair play." I was like, "That's a miraculous turn of events to actually be solicited, for a dick pic to be solicited." And he was like, "Yeah, so obviously, do I just wait till like I'm in bed, like, and I'm, good to go?" And I was like, "No."
No?
I was like, "No, man. What you need to do is that'd be, if you send her one when you're erect, that's bad. Like, that's really, you can't do that."
Are you taking the piss out of him?
Yes.
Mark.
I was like, "You have to do it when it's soft."
Mark.
So he did it after the bath.
Oh, you dickhead.
Just this like limp little fleshy catch-you nut clinging onto his thigh, clinging onto his red thigh from the hot water, like a seal trying to cling onto an ice cap that's been chased by killer whales. This little fleshy, pathetic lump. Do you know what I mean? Like, sent it to her. There you go, babes. Nice one. 2 inches. Good stuff.
I presume they didn't work out for them.
No, they actually went on a date.
Okay.
Never had sex, but that's the game. Nevertheless.
Hi, I got a message on a dating app from a random stranger that just left me the message. He basically said, was wishing me a good evening, and he was wanted to be honest about his message. He was wanted to be honest about what he's looking for. He said he wanted to meet a woman with a passion for life and love. He said that he loved curvy women with large breasts, and he loved areolas. Can't pronounce the word. He said that he loved to lick and to be breastfed, and he'd love to satisfy his partner. And to say the least, I was a bit floored by his message because it was the first time getting a message like that. I also got another message from a young guy. So I'm 45. And I got a message from a 27-year-old guy from, and as he said, the Belmulla area. He was wondering, would I have any interest in meeting up with him for a bit of fun? He'd always love to experience it with a lady a small bit older than themselves. I think that's a big bit older than themselves. And that maybe I could show him a few tricks. And by the way, he also drove. Like, that was a deal breaker. So yeah, that was a funny one too.
I love the way it sounds like she's she's got like this book of Kells of dating horror stories that she's reading through. Do you know what I mean? The breast stuff. Was his name Kieran by any chance? because like the licking, it all sounds around these parts. We've got a word for that. That is derangement. And the breasts, the teaching of the tricks is an unusual. Oh, would you be able to teach me a few tricks? The worm. Do you know what I mean? Do you want to do the levitation thing where you hold your arms up and then you're using the like? It's just how I always wonder about this. What is the success rate on behaviors like? Like how many women, if he talks to 100 women and says, "How's it going? Yeah, looking for a curvy woman with big breasts. Any chance that you'd like lactate into my mouth?" Sorry? Do you know what I mean?
I actually be so interested in that as well. I'd love to see out of 100 women.
You'd love to see somebody lactate into somebody.
No, I'd love to know how many people would actually be like, do you know what? Yeah, but it's like a bit of me.
Or you feel, I was thinking maybe go for 2 drinks and Grogan's, but yeah, do you know what? I could get the old wet nurse outfit from the Matter Private and nip over to yours and feed you. Do you know what I mean? That's actually, do you know what? That's a great idea. I was thinking we'd see the new Zendaya flick, but actually, why didn't I take my can out of my top and then feed you like a child? That's a great, in lieu of going to the zoo or for a coffee walk, why didn't I produce a breast from my blouse and shove it down the back of your mouth? You absolute pervert.
And I'll get a tea towel and wrap it around the back of your head and pat it.
Let's go.
So it must have been literally about, I would say, 15 years ago. And it was the early days of like sadbastards.com where you went internet dating. And I've been 3 months DMing this chap from the west of the country and I'm in the east of the country. So I agreed to meet him at a hotel for dinner, and of course had given him my best friend all his details in case he turned out to be a serial killer. Anyway, I went to meet him at said hotel and I stood outside the hotel where we'd arranged to meet, and he told me he'd be driving a Navy car. So the Navy car drove up the street, the driver's door opened and one crutch came out, and then a leg came out and the other leg came out, and then the other crutch came out. And I was like, lovely to meet you. You never thought to mention the crutches. Now, bearing in mind we'd been speaking for 3 months. It was the old days where you'd speak to someone for weeks and weeks and weeks before you'd meet up. And he was like, yeah, no, I actually have cerebral palsy and I didn't want to mention it in case you wouldn't meet me. I was like, so, it's just a little detail you'd leave out. You did the whole, so where you from? If you have many siblings. Do you know something?
Okay. I mean, look, I do have an enormous amount of sympathy. I empathise with the person in question because the reality is it's shit that he felt like he needed to do that. It's shit like he felt like he needed to withhold the fact that he had cerebral palsy because he thought that may affect, her willingness to go on a date with him. So assumingly he's had some negative experiences in the past, and that's absolutely crap. Like, so there's nothing really like, it's not something to poke fun at him that he's had a shit run of experiences with that in the past. However, I do think that like if there's a significant detail about yourself that you believe may impact whether or not somebody wants to go for a drink or for a date with you, then you sort of have to be clear. Like with dating, we have to paint as clear a picture of ourselves as possible. For instance, and it's not the same, and I'm not equating one to the other, by the way, in any capacity. But like, say for instance, I'm an alcoholic, okay? I feel like I should tell people, like when I was dating Darren, I told her that before we went on our first date because like, yeah, maybe she'd be weird about that. Maybe she wouldn't want to go for, like, obviously not go for a drink, but maybe she'd be like, oh, do you know what? Like, it's just something that she has to consider. Like, the other person is allowed make a decision as to whether or not they want to go on a date with you based upon you, not just the sort of, we can't just hide our crazy in the back out of the shop window forever. Sorry, again, not saying that alcoholism is crazy, not saying alcoholism is the same as cerebral palsy in any capacity, by the way, just so that's very, very clear. I'm just saying in terms of putting forward an honest version of ourselves, we shouldn't withhold any, like if I had fucking face tattoos. But all my pictures on Hinge didn't have them. I feel like you have to tell them. And it's not that that's a negative thing. It's not that it's a plus or a minus. It's just that it's different to how you're putting yourself forward.
100%. And we talk about catfishing all the time. It's just another example of that.
That's it. When I was living in London, I was catfished so many times that I should win some sort of British Angler of the Year award. Genuinely. I remember one time, like... That's all we have time for today. Let's go. Thank you so much for listening to the Weekly Roast, guys. I really and truly appreciate it. It's amazing having you with us here every week. I hope you enjoy the show. If you did, send me a message on Instagram at Megan Mark. Let me know what parts you enjoyed or endured. And I'm looking forward to everything that's coming down the tracks, and I will speak to you next week. Mind yourselves, and as we said, big love to Mrs. Jollies. We're thinking of you. All the best. Chat to you soon. Take care.